Hi there, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, and today I'm going to have an RPG discussion with my good friend Calvin. Now, you're not going to miss out on anything if you just listen to this video and don't watch it, so I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy an RPG discussion with my friend Calvin about what Game Masters want. Enjoy. Okay, so I appreciate you coming out today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming. And this is actually, again, this is the first time I've had anybody do like an RPG discussion. The other one I didn't work because the microphones didn't work out too well. But that's a technical error. So you get the honor of the actual first one I'm actually going to put up. And
this is indeed honored.
Well, cool. This is going to be fun. So this whole thing now is RPG discussion. And today's topic is basically simple enough. It's what do Game Masters want? And this is going to be a whole new series of stuff from Game Masters' perspective, from players' perspectives, different people, guys who are just players, guys I know, guys I don't know, guys who are Game Masters, the whole 9 yards. So now I'm going to start out for everybody who's listening. And of course, I'm Dave Hunt, owner of Game Masters Guild, and you are my guest, and you are Calvin.
I am Calvin.
So now I've known you for a really long time. Originally, you just started as a customer of the store, and then we became friends, and now you're sitting here at the table across from me, and I'll probably see you tonight when we go to game night, because I'm pretty sure I've got that arranged so I can go to game night tonight, or Saturday night, I mean. And
I was like, oh, do I not know something? Is there a surprise game?
No. I wish I could play right now, honestly.
I wish I could find a place that sells dice.
I know, I don't know. There's no really good ones in Crestview. Oh, wait, that's me. So now, how long have you been playing? And then also, too, tell me, how long have you been actually running games, approximately?
So, funny enough, approximately about as long as I've known you.
Okay.
So, since I'm military, moved here, just happened to find your store, like, Brittany and I, and the kids were like, what's that place? Let's go check it out. So, went in, loved the atmosphere, and was like, okay, some stuff to maybe peruse in the future, because we've always been playing board games for a couple years, and this was back in 2016.
Okay.
And Brittany, funny enough, she's my wife, she had more experience with Dungeons and Dragons than I did at the time.
I actually did not know that.
I basically had no experience whatsoever, aside from maybe hearing about it, maybe playing the video game version of it online or something. But unfortunately for her, she had a bad experience with it, players having a big emphasis on stuff they probably shouldn't be doing during the game. The stuff.
Stuff just makes people uncomfortable. Yeah.
But anyway, so we decided okay, well, we'll try and dabble with some stuff. And one day, I think you were having a random one shot, people could sign up for it, which was awesome at the time. I was like, I'll sign up for one of these. I think you had them on a Friday night or Saturday night or something.
Yeah, it's something like that.
So my first real experience was with you, and this was probably, I think, summertime of 2016. And so my first actual board game or tabletop experience was Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, okay.
That was great. I enjoyed it immensely and was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to buy some stuff. I'll start with D&D since that's the most mainstream thing at the time, and I've been going at it ever since. But mostly Dungeon Master. I started out with my wife and a couple of my friends, so a party of 3, basically. And then it's evolved there. We might grab new people, and then you've introduced me to people, and it's been great. And even did the Youth Guild in Niceville, so I've had the pleasure of teaching children how to play.
That's pretty cool. What age range? Because I know you had some pretty young ones, but you also had some
if I remember correctly, the age range was 8 to 13, I believe.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And I had the pleasure of dealing mostly with the older children, so they got the role play bit a little bit more, whereas the younger kids were a little bit murder hobo-y.
Yeah. You are the person that because you spent the least time as a player before a DM. Did you? And I think that's pretty interesting because me, it took me definitely a few years to kind of cross over, and it made me cross over easier from player to DM because I started running games for people who had no idea what it was about. So it was easy for me to kind of reel them in and say, all right, come on, let's go, let's play. while I was still trying to figure out how to even do it, if I was even doing it right, which you can't really get it wrong as long as everybody's having fun. But when you first get into it, it makes you a little nervous. How was that transition for you? Going from player, did you just like, oh, this is great, I'm going to go ahead and run this, and like totally cool, or still a little bit of nerves, or?
Definitely a little bit of nerves. Transition wasn't as bad. Like I've seen videos, of course, of like other people playing, whatever. I've heard stories, and like having you doing the one shots was great. I got that knowledge and experience of being a player, and that's for a while. That was my only time I got to be a player, was doing the one shots. And then, but I would learn from you. I learned from some other people I saw, whether it be online or just like reading. Transition's not so bad. Nerves, I mean, you have the other players there to help you run the story, basically.
So it's not so bad. You don't have not too much stage fright.
And what I learned from you was like, maybe if there's something I'm missing in the story I didn't think of, the players might like, oh, I wonder if we do A, B, and C, maybe it'll lead to this. I'm like, oh, maybe.
Oh yeah, make that extra note. Yeah, because I do that all the time. And players will go in certain directions, and I'm like, oh my god, that's really cool. And I just start writing stuff down, and the players like, so they'll roll a d20, they get a higher roll. Oh, I got a 20. So what does it say about this secret sect? And I just mentioned it in passing because it was window dressing. It sounded cool, and I'm like, oh, it says a lot. So much so, I'm gonna have to get with you next week. Oh, cool. Which means I have no idea what it is at all, and I have to plan now. And now I have, because I put that little tidbit in, and someone's interested in it, and I follow that path. Now I'm down that rabbit hole, and I cannot climb back out. So, yeah, that's definitely a thing. So what do you think the hardest part about being a GM is?
I would say timing for everyone to get together, but I think that's just a problem for everyone, whether you're a DM, a GM, or just like the player. That's just a problem for everyone. But as a dungeon master or game master, I think the hardest thing, in my opinion, would be remembering to take notes, or like writing down the important stuff, like whether like maybe you had a long day before, or something, or like you're just so in the story that you're like, what was the name I just gave them? Okay. I think taking notes is the hardest thing.
Yeah, especially because when you're playing, there's a lot of things going, and you're just trying to keep the game running. And I knew that. I'm notoriously bad about that. I'll jot down a quick note, and then I'll be reviewing my notes later, and I'll flip the page. I'm like, there's a single name, there's no information, or a statement about something. I'm like, what is this? And I literally have to sit down, even sometimes my weekly games. It's worse if it's like bi-weekly or monthly or something. But then I sit down, I'm like, does anyone remember what's going on? Because I just need to make sure I got everything straight for you guys. And every now and then somebody gives me a quizzical look, but most of the time people are like, oh yeah, I remember this and this, because everybody needs help filling the gaps sometimes, with work and school and all that stuff.
I've learned as a player to try and take some notes, and I know that helps a little bit for like the DM, whether it was you or Glenn or anyone else. I've seen it everywhere on the internet. It always cracks me up. I just always see this thing. It's whether it's a cartoon, and Dungeon Master sits down and he looks at his notes or her notes from like the week before, and like, sexy goblin.
Yes.
And that's the only note they have.
Yes. That's my equivalent right there. And even as a player, I just jot down a few casual notes. I don't jot down very much. My wife, she literally writes a book when we're playing, and especially last time we played Dungeons and Dragons with some friends. I mean, she just like, it's just literally just everything that happens is like a journal.
I have a year's worth of notes from your first campaign.
Oh wow! That's why it's kind of nice as a DM. You can kind of, not always, and it's not perfect. You really need to keep good notes, but when your players are taking good notes, sometimes they take better notes than you will. And a lot of times I'm like, I know you take really good notes. Can I skim real quick? And I sometimes I'll fake it and I'll say, I'm looking for something particular. Let me see if you. I'll skim your notes real quick. And really, I'm just trying to refresh my memory,
As a player, if you remember to take notes, you can also anger the DM, because you might like, oh yeah, I also have I have this magic sword, blah blah blah. Like, where'd you get that from? You gave it to me on December 5th at 12:02 p.m.
I'm the king of handing out crap that magically reappears during a game. One was a magical D20 arrow Travis probably told you about. And he saved, and this is for Palladium Fantasy. He saves it to the very, like when we've been playing this game hard, Sunday for a whole year.
Yeah, I thought Travis said like it was like more than.
Oh,
a year.
It could very well have been more than a year. It was substantial. It was at least a year. And he whips this thing out at the end of the game. I'm like, stop. And I ask him, I say, no, you used all those. And then everybody at the table could instantly recount,
Oh.
Where he did it and used it and described it. I'm like, Jesus, I never remember this stuff even as a player. And
Son of a biscuit.
Pretty impressive.
I've had mundane items kind of like screw me over. In one game, one of my friends, Eddie, he took the shoelace off of some bum or whatever, like stole it from him on purpose. And I forget what he ended up using it for, but it was like a couple sessions later, it was like it somehow came in handy, like some kind of MacGyver event. But it was more like a MacGruber thing from SNL. But like he's like, oh, I'm gonna use the shoelace that I got from the bum to do this part. I'm like, okay, roll. I was like, I forget. Roll something to see if it works. It works.
Oh my gosh. Let's back up real quick. What was the hardest part about being a GM? I can't even remember now what you said.
Notes, but I think.
Yes, notes. We did clarify that, yeah.
But I think a very close second would be having time for each person at the table. Making sure everyone's engaged, they don't get bored so easily.
Yeah, that's very hard. I find that less is more. Less time I spend on each player, I can come back to each player quicker. So instead of spending 15 minutes with you and tying that up, I'll spend 5 minutes with you, then 5 minutes this guy, a couple minutes this guy, a couple minutes this guy, come back to you, keep working on that, and keep going around the table. Unless it just happens to work pretty good, where I can spend all my time with you, and it seems like the other players are engaged, but that works out better, I think, with a smaller group, much smaller group.
Or you can just do like, and I know I've seen you do it, and I've done it myself, like just okay, you go hide behind the tree, and you're looking for your adversary, but meanwhile.
Yes, I like that because it's kind of like cliffhanger, like, and then also too, it's nice because then it kind of, I think in a way, makes the other players want to pay attention to what's happening to the other guy, because sometimes they might catch a glimpse of something else that's coming or a hint of what's to become of them, maybe. Not always, but sometimes. But yeah, and then I do definitely agree with you, notes for sure. And I always find with notes, less is always more. If I write down too much stuff, I just end up flipping past it later and have to try to find a way to rearrange and come back to it. But anyways, now, what do you think about the rules? Now, I know the rules, I tell everybody, the rules are a framework upon which you just tell your story, upon which you hang your campaign. They're there just to be that whole impartial thing. And of course, we bend and break them accordingly to our party and to our group with consistency and impartiality, at least should. But do you think the rules are more important than the game itself? Do you think they can get in the way of the story? What if it does? What do you do?
I think it depends on you as the DM or the GM and the players, of course. If you're doing like a one-shot, I think it should be like a given that, okay, things are going to be we might be able to bend the rules a little bit on this and that and everything, but if you're doing an actual like campaign where everyone can like almost 99% of the time make it to each session, like you got to lay the foundation beforehand, like, okay, is anyone like really heavy on rules or whatnot, or is it more important to you as a player to be able to role play more and like maybe like, okay, some weird like gray area, be able to bend it. You have to have that discussion beforehand, I think. Mm-hmm. And if some people like, well, I do like adhering to the rules more than maybe like tailor that to them, but just be like, we got to make this fun for everyone, myself too, and for you. Like, we got to talk about it beforehand and like maybe like find a way to make exceptions, or like it just depends on the players. It's got to be a discussion for everyone.
Gotcha. If you find the rules are getting in the way of the story, are you likely to make an exception at the time, or are you just going to say, well, I'm breaking this because story? Or
usually something might happen on the fly, like that would like break the rule because of something cool that the player did. They're like, you know what? Screw it.
Rule of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Rule of cool. Especially like if you're playing with like younger kids, which when I did with the youth group, like I wouldn't like throw the rules completely out the window, but like if if I had some like kids that were like just really like, oh, I want to do this, but it's gonna mess up like the other kids' fun. Like, hey, you know, I understand you want to do that, but let's this is what's gonna happen, and it's so it could be fair for everyone. Like this kid, like he wanted to do like 5 million things in like one turn. I'm not exaggerating, but he literally wanted to do like 5 different things, like for like one action. I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna happen, and then I gotta go next to Johnny, like, and then it's a little Sue's turn, whatever next. Like you gotta wait.
Definitely got to wait your turn in, but that's nice because then again the rules are there because you can fall back on it, so you can stop him from doing a whole bunch of stuff at once because he's only got so many actions, bonus action, reaction, all that good stuff. So the rules are nice, so you can still fall back on. But it is nice. Rule of cool. Oh, definitely. If something awesome's happening, man, just kind of let it go. You know, the gods favor them or whatever that day. Magic.
Absolutely. And then like before, like if we're doing like an actual campaign, like at the beginning I'm like, okay, well here's some house rules, or like even the next session, like, okay, I want to change it up. Is everyone okay with that? Put it to a vote.
Oh, and see, that's normally what I'll do. Like if I have a problem with the rules, usually it comes up because a player says something. They say, hey, there's a conflict here, and I'm like, okay, well let's take a look at it. And then what I'll do is to save the time we play, because the time you have is precious. So I say, well, I'm going to rule this, and I'm going to usually rule on the side of the players, or at least make it a little bit more in their favor at that time, so that way we can get the game going, get playing, and then I tell everybody, you know, I'm going to do it this way. But of course, once I look at it after the game session's over, I'm going to reevaluate it and see how I want to do it from there on out. So that way they know that next session it could be completely opposite, or it could be better for them, or maybe nothing's changed. Maybe it's just one of those small circumstantial things where it's probably not going to happen again. But usually if it happens once, it's probably going to happen again, so you kind of got to make a decision on it. But most guys are pretty cool, especially if you just kind of spell it out, say, hey, well, that's what we're going to do. But let's keep going right now, because I don't want to spend hours just talking about something at the table when we could be playing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, you don't want to, like, waste that precious time you got. Like, you want to keep the game going, keep everyone engaged, and you just want to play.
And I've heard stories, guys, like here at the shop, like I'll ask them, they'll come out after they've been back there for like a couple hours, and I'm like, oh, say, hey, how's the game going? Just casually, oh, we've been arguing about a rule for like the last hour, you know, and I'm like, why don't you just make a quick ruling and just go? Well, so-and-so, I don't know, that just sounds like someone's trying to be a rules lawyer, or just trying to block everyone else's fun. I mean, make a decision, move on, and evaluate it in between sessions. That's the best way. And I don't know, it doesn't happen all the time, but I know it does happen. And I know that can be frustrating for the DM as well as the players. And of course, I'm only hearing one side of it too from one guy. I don't know, you know. But yeah.
And obviously, this is very biased, but if I wanted to like play by a very specific set of rules, then I'd play a board game or like a video game where I'm stuck to those rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me.
And there's a lot of things I do tend to fudge and bend a lot of the rules if it suits the aesthetic. There's a lot going on. I'm like, someone's like, well, I can only do a bonus action. I'm out of actions, Dave. Keep rolling the dice. Don't worry about how many actions you got. Don't worry about whether or not you have a bonus action. You're jumping off a horse with 2 daggers, flying towards the mouth of the Trask. Give me another roll already. And you'll see it, man. I tell people, forget the rules, man. If I tell you to roll for something, just roll it, you know. But, you know, I try not to be, you know, like every single session's like that. But it's fun when you see a player, I don't have enough act. Just do it. Okay. They'll love to do it, you know. It's cool.
And with that, not everything requires a roll either.
No.
Like, oh, I want to, like, search for, I want to see if there's any, like, vials on his desk. Like, okay, well, do I need to roll for it? No. I mean, you can see it right there. He's got, like, a flask here, a beaker there, a bottle there. Like, you can see all those items right there. Like, are you looking for anything specific?
Well, yeah.
That's when you can roll.
Yep. Hidden stuff that's maybe not so obvious. And I gotta admit, everybody likes to roll dice. I like to roll dice. Players like to roll dice. Me as a player likes to roll die. And then also at the same time, it just seems to be the nature of the game. But really, sometimes dice rolling can bog down the game. It's like, oh no, man, you look just fine. Well, I want to roll for something. There's nothing else to find. Even if you roll 20, there's nothing you're going to find.
And I've learned this from you, just randomly rolling dice. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you rolling there for? Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Miniatures, like, they're talking, and I'll just, like, move something like the guard is, like, doing a patrol. Like, what are you moving it for? Like, he's moving. I mean, it's technically a live game. Wait, why are you rolling? Don't worry about it. What are you doing?
Yeah. No, I love doing that stuff. Now, I mean, and sometimes I won't. I mean, I won't always do it, but it is fun to kind of interject that occasionally in a game here and there in a session, so that way players realize the world's not static. Things are still happening, whether or not they're arguing about treasure or they're trying to seduce the dragon in the next room, but really there's a whole bunch of guards coming, all sorts of weird stuff. The world is never static, and I always like that. And I always like it when DMs kind of push that, because then you feel like you're really part of a living system instead of, oh, we're just going to put the game on pause, you know.
I've also had it like represented like maybe like a wave is about to crash down, but they're arguing about what they want to do, and like, okay, well the wave's coming.
Oh, I love the one-handed count. Sometimes, especially if it's something like a Big Ten situation, I will give them a little more leeway. You know, I'll let them really work on it. But if I feel like, you know, past a few minutes, you know, 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, you know, they're like almost there, but not quite sure what they're going to do, and they're like kind of second guessing themselves. Then I'm like, all right, I got to know 5, 4. Who's first with 3? Who knows what we're going to do? 2, 1. What are you doing right now? If you hesitate, I'm moving to the next guy. You don't do anything. Ooh. Then you tell me, and I just go. Because I do want to give my players, because they're not really those characters, so they need extra time to try and figure out what they're going to do. But I can only give them so much time.
I jump off the boat.
Okay. Okay. So, oh jeez. What do you say is more important for you as a game master? What do you want out of a role-playing game? You want more role-playing, more action, more cool stuff, your NPCs, the story itself, their backstory? What's the most important thing that you want to get there for you? What's the most important in that game?
I want it all.
I know you want it all, but if even if it's all equal, what's the one thing that's just a little bit more important?
As a dungeon master, I want the players, the characters, I want them to be happy with the way the story is going, whether it's going good or bad. Like, oh man, can we recover from this? Or like, oh yes, my side quest is being done. Yeah. And then with that, as a player, you know, obviously I want it all, but like if I can get like some semblance of like my personal side quest done, or like actually contributing to the main quest, whether it's like to kill the big bad, or like to save the princess or whatever, slay the dragon, the Trask, like to me that's like the most important part, like basically the story, whether it's the whole story or like my personal bit in the story, the quest.
That's cool. At first I was just going off my notes, and I was gonna be like, oh, for me it'd definitely be the role playing. But your answer is way better, because I'm like, well, I am always excited about what the players do, and I'm always saying that I want to go where the players go. So my answer is actually technically yours. But
no pressure. I'm still wondering what happens with my character after he became the true god of war and cats.
Yeah, and then I had that big hiatus, and now you're going to Alaska, and I can't finish it. That's usually what happens in my games. I'm trying to be better about finishing games.
That's right. I wanted it to be sort of a surprise, especially if I did it as a one shot for like you or someone else. But I was gonna take the story that we've done so far with you and like use that as like a ancient history, like 100 years later.
Oh, that's cool.
Here's like the new party, and like everything that we did in your campaign is like written in the textbooks. Like, where do we go from here?
Oh, that's cool. So we talked about quite a bit of stuff already, but now a lot of game masters often have large groups, or sometimes feel obligated to keep letting players into the game. Been there, done that, got that T-shirt. I'm trying to always make my game smaller, but I know even once I start up my regular game, because right now I'm pretty much. Because occasionally I'd be running, you know, sometimes, usually on average, like 2 different games. But right now I'm just doing the one. Well, when I get back doing things, I'm just going to be doing the one game. And even though I try to minimize the size of my groups, I know sometimes it's kind of hard, because you want to, like, just let everybody in.
It's hard to say no.
It's hard to say no, unless right out the gate you're like, I know Glenn caught a little heat from John for, sorry guys, for not letting them in. And Glenn was like, no, this is the size of my group. This is what I want to stay with. And I think at some point someone left, and then John got in. And again, he was just trying to limit the size to make it easier on him and easier on the players. And then the other guy came back, so I think Glenn let the other guy back in anyways. So he's got a fairly big group. And I don't know, it's like 6 or 7, I think it is, which isn't terrible, but it can be unwieldy. And I have problems. And I always sometimes, I see it from my perspective, and I understand what I'm trying to do, but I know not everybody thinks like I do, and they might feel jilted a little bit. I'm not saying John did. He's just kind of like he razzing more than anything else.
If you're lucky enough to have experienced players, then like you have that advantage. Like, okay, everyone knows like when I get to you, like, oh, you might already know what you want to do, or at least you have some semblance of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But when I ran into that problem doing the youth guild I was helping out with, I think at one point I had like 6 or 7 kids at my table. So like I let them know beforehand, since I was supposed to be doing like the experienced player group, so like the 12, 13-year-olds. So I told them like before the session started, like each time, like, hey, just so you know, we have a lot of people here, so try and remember what you want to do. Try not to let your phone ever distract you, which that was one of the rules anyways, like don't have any phones, especially since there was like a youth guild. But like I let them know, like, hey, try and like figure out what you want to do beforehand, and if you don't know, that's okay. I can skip you, and like I'm not skipping you entirely. Like, I'll just go to the next person, and then I can come back to you once you've thought about it.
What do you think? What's your cutoff? What's your maximum cutoff?
The dream, to me, the dream table is like 4 to 5 people. I was comfortable with 6. I think 7 might be too much.
I have to agree.
Unless like it's known ahead of time, like if you have like maybe 7 or 8 people, like if everyone's experienced, everyone already knows ahead of time.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, big difference.
It makes this difference in my decision process. For me, generally, if I can get a group of 3, that's sweet, because you can really keep it tight, keep it moving, and you can throw a lot out there, and they're more like a team, especially if you get the players. Like I had it was John, Glenn, and Josh, and it was a zombie apocalypse game, and they were all like U.S. military, like they're all like special forces or something like that. So it worked because they all had the same kind of goal. They're all part of being a part of a team, so it was super streamlined. And man, we ran hardcore with it. It was great. I mean, it was so easy to go back and forth between 3 people. You can get a lot in. 4 is really the sweet spot, because then you've got, it's a nice even number, because if you have 2 couples come, then the third person, if there's only 3 people, you don't have the third person feel like, well, these 2 couples, if there's any decision making, it might feel uneven. Or if 2 guys really know each other and there's a new guy, it could be, you could feel a little awkward maybe in the decision making process. But usually with role playing, I don't think that's too much of a problem, at least not that I've seen. 5 is kind of my upper end, but then anything beyond that, like you, like 6 or 7, no. I ran 9. I even did like a one shot with 9.
9?
Yeah. One guy helped
me
there
make... for that?
No. One guy helped me make some characters, and he said, I said, hey, I really appreciate you helping me out and make characters and stuff. Oh, no problem. Just let me know if you got room. I was like, well, I can't have you help me with this and then not have you in, so you're in. Someone else like brought their friend. Hey, they're out of town. They're coming from out of town. Just for one day. Is it cool? I was like, yeah, bring it. And I'm like, I'll figure it out on the fly. I don't know how I did it, but I pulled it off. But it's easier. But of course, that's a one shot. One shot's really hard. Yeah. But you simplify everything. But then I had like the big game where I didn't have you, but I had like 9 people. I had all sorts of people. Started strong, ended strong. Oh, my middle was super bad. But anyways, and of course, eventually, I think by the time I ended, I had 6. I started with 9, and just people. And that's the problem with a bigger group, because sometimes jobs change, people move, stuff like that. You just can't always get, that's another problem with big group, you just can't always get those people at the table all the time, no matter how hard they want to be there. Some people get annoyed, like, well, no one can show up now. Well, life, man. What's more important? My job, my home life, or my other commitments, or game night? I mean, game night's super important, don't get me wrong, but, but 9 is very difficult to run for, I think, and to get the quality that you want out of the game overall,
And on the opposite side of that, before Tasha's, is it Tasha's College and Everything, isn't it? Anyway, before Tasha's came out, Tasha's had like the great thing of like having like companions. I think little NPCs that you control.
Oh yeah,
sidekick type thing. So, but before that even came out, like the one shot I ran, and you were in it. I think I set it up to where like you could do like just 2 people would be fine, but you would get like a companion, kind of like a modified character version for like was it Beastmaster?
Yeah. And that's where I had the monkey, right?
You had the monkey.
I had the monkey, and I
called him like Ook Ook or something.
Yeah, and
then Glenn had the war dog, but he was I think he was like a gnome cavalier, so he can ride his own dog.
That was pretty good.
It was nice.
I remember my monkey. I went and bought I went to town, and you're probably getting annoyed because I went and bought a bunch of stuff. Me and my monkey split up between our bags, and he could like throw knives and stuff.
But that was smart.
But it worked pretty well. I mean, I was like, I'll take the monkey.
I was impressed as the DM. I was like, But I was working towards that anyways. I was hoping you'd do something similar.
And see, now that's kind of game. See, I could have been like, oh, we need to keep running, because man, I would have milked that for everything. Yeah, it would have been cool. From your perspective, how do you? Since we're talking about large groups and stuff like that, this kind of goes to that. Well, maybe not. I don't know. How do you view players going off the rails, not following the story? And the players frequently split off from the party. What do you think about that?
Well, as a former player who's gone off the rails in your games before, I treat it just like life. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, so you just got to roll with the punches.
Which can be difficult to do. I know some guys are very linear, and man, if people split up, they're like, they just can't have it. They're like, no, you just can't do it. You don't split the party. Everybody sticks together. But it's unrealistic, though.
I mean, you got to think there's always a silver lining to something. So, like, I've had players, like, go completely off the rails, and then it worked to my benefit in a hilarious way.
Oh, yeah.
So, got to keep this PG. So, one of my friends, I'll just say Brian, and some of you out there might know. So Brian was mad about something that I did in-game, and he caught himself being funny, took out something out of his bag that belonged to someone else that he had killed. It was a bodily part, and he thought it was going to be funny and, like, place it on this magic hand that I had in this room. And I remembered that he had to cross the room, and there was this elegant rug, and I was like, all right, that's fine. Give me a dex check. He's like, why? Just because, let's just see what happens. And he rolled a 1. I'm like, you trip, you fall on your face, and the hand picks up the object and puts it on you. Oh. If someone were to split the party, I'll like, okay, well, you go off so many feet away, but then you hear, like, this loud noise behind you. Are you going to go? Or are you going to go back to your party? Are you going to go forward? Or, like, you just have this strange gut feeling like, maybe it's a bad idea. Because me as a DM, I know, like, if you go that way, you're gonna run into a big bad, and it's just you and, like, one other person, and, like, your healer is in the other party. Like, you sure you want to do that? But of course I'm saying, oh, you got this bad feeling in your stomach. Oh well.
Players can get in trouble pretty quick if they split up. I mean,
or the DM.
Yeah,
you're in trouble too.
I don't mind. Like, I really don't mind if they split up in town, but sometimes if they split up, like, in a dungeon or something like that, or out in the wilderness, that's kind of a problem. But maybe not so much if you engineer it to be more beneficial if the players do split up.
If I catch myself being smart and planning ahead, and the one time it works, I'll just tell them, like, we gonna split the party? Okay, I'm prepared for it. I say that under my breath, of course.
Not to say I won't have a few head scratchers, like at the press. Oh yeah, no, you guys do whatever you want. If you guys want to go, if you get a couple guys want to stay in town, a couple of you guys want to go check out the Goblin Hideout, and a couple other guys want to go to either the next town or go check out that spooky tower, no, you guys go for it. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I say it with confidence. Everything I do with confidence. Hey, you go right ahead. You go right ahead. You go right ahead. You do whatever you want.
Oh, no, he wants
and then meanwhile, my inner self is like, every time I hit a button for this human guy, he doesn't do anything. He just keeps saying, go ahead. What are these people doing? No! My inner self is screaming at me. Well, I can't control the ship. So it's that bad. But why not? It's fun. And it's only gaming anyways, you know. I mean, how hard is it really? Oh, no, it's not. So, how do you handle absent players? I know a lot of times...
That can be a tough one, especially for, like, if you're new to DMing. The way I handled it at the youth guild is I told the kids beforehand, like, okay, you're part of, like, a traveling guild, like mercenaries, so to speak. So, like, I tried to, like, leave each session, like, not at a crucial point, like maybe be, like, right before they're gonna enter the door to, like, battle, like, a big boss, like a big bugbear and his goblin little minions or whatever. And so, like, if the next session rolled around and, like, of course there's a missing character, like a new character, like, okay, so right before, like, you go in, like, so your hunter decided to, like, go back and, like, check on his friends, but he tagged out with the rogue, so that's what the party now consists of. Now you have a paladin, a rogue, and a cleric, but the hunter's back at the caravan at the beginning of the cave with the fighter and the barbarian. As for the more experienced players and adults or whatever, I like the way that you handled it or Glenn handled it. Like, okay, well, like, well, so and so is going to head back to the inn, and they're going to stay there to like take care of stuff. Or for example, there was a potential for me to miss a game, and so my character was a goblin artificer at the time, and so his excuse was, okay, I'm going to go back to the inn to like tinker with my armor to try and get it fixed up for like the next big event, and that's why my character would be missing. Or like someone went ahead to like go check on like the dog sled or something.
Yeah, it's just like you. It doesn't bother me if people are gone because I can find something that sounds reasonable-ish. And if everybody's there to play and have fun, anyways, most people are like, hand wave. Okay, that sounds good.
I like what you did with I forget his character's name, but like
was that when we were in limbo when I turned him into a tree?
That's a good one, but no, we got done fighting the Slod.
Oh yeah,
Death Slad.
That's right, and he got impregnated. It was like he was got impregnated by a Slod, and
so he was sick.
And I kind of worked it out differently, so I can't remember exactly how he got it because he was in limbo when he caught it. I guess it's like catching crabs or something. I don't know, but he just got it. It was impregnated up underneath his chest. Somehow it got in him, and then he was just like he just fell into stupor. And because he couldn't be there, I just said, well, then he's just unconscious. He's got this thing, and you guys got to help him try to, get it out of him. And I think I said, by the time they got him back to wherever they got him, some of the healers or whoever was able to kind of put him under a little more to kind of slow the growth of the thing until they could resolve it. And basically, it was just kind of a hammer fix to
a magical coma, I think it was.
Yeah, magical.
But that was good. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, I figured why not. And it's not a big deal if someone misses a session. It's different if someone's just like, wishy-washy. Then I'm just like, whatever, you're in town.
Life
whatever.
happens.
Yes, whatever. But I just don't worry too much about it. And sometimes you can kind of work out. You can do it for laughs. Sometimes it works out well, like when Travis was a tree. So that worked really good. And then
Travis.
Then when Jack had the thing under him, that's kind of a tense thing. And I could have went a lot of ways with that. It ended up just being like, when it gets magically removed and we're done and we keep playing the game, and that was pretty much it. But I have taken opportunities like that and gone like a little side. Where they could have gotten it out and then it could have escaped. They could have come after them for any number of reasons. I could have done all sorts of stuff with that thing. And it's all magic, fantasy, everything. Even though people are tempted to say, well, that doesn't do that. That's not what it says in the book. It requires a roll. I'm like, it's fantasy. It's magic. It's monsters. It's too bad. I'm going to run the game anyways. So you're hosed. Who's to say it's not a variation or mutation? Too bad. I mean, I don't always do that, but, I like to keep people guessing sometimes, and that's kind of fun. What do you do with players? Oh, I'm sorry. What do players do that you consider disruptive, and what do you do about the disruptive nature? And it doesn't have to be the same thing.
You're on your phone. The exception, you're using your phone for D&D related stuff, like you're looking up something your character can do, like, oh, I forgot, what can I do during battle? But like, you know who you are. Just being on the phone, just like, oh, look at this video, just like, I'm trying to have like a semi-serious moment with like another character or something. But the way I've gotten around that though is just being like, oh, and then this happens, then the tree falls down, and hey, make a saving throw. What happened? I was yeah, make a saving throw.
Yep, bad stuff happens when you're not paying attention.
Disadvantage, by the way.
Yep. Oh, yep. That's another opportunity when I do the noises. Or like I said, we talked earlier, how you roll for stuff, jot down some notes, look like you're deep into it, and the player's like, oh crap. And you're like, oh yeah, you guys are way behind the curve.
But I understand. I can understand the player being maybe somewhat bored. Like, okay, maybe I'm not engaging with them enough, and so I'll try and like turn that around a bit.
Yep, because that is kind of indicative, like, what the players are doing or what they're not doing is kind of, in a way, it's kind of a testament to you. Because not everybody, it's just because, they're just not into it and they're just not paying attention because they're just that doofy guy. No, not necessarily. Sometimes it's because you're not doing something right as a DM, and that's important too because you want to keep them engaged, keep them going. And it doesn't hurt to, and I won't necessarily call it out the tail, but if it becomes a big problem, I might say later in between games, like, hey man, notice you're really on your phone. Is there something that is... Are you like super not engaged? What's going on? I'm just kind of curious if I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If I'm not telling a good enough story for you, or if I'm not, I try to get down to the root of it. I just want to be like, hey man, just get off your phone while we're playing. It's not cool. I don't want to do that because there might be other stuff going on, and sometimes And I know with me, like, I've had stuff go on the last few years, and sometimes, man, you're just not into it. Sometimes it's because you want to be there, you want to hang out, you want to play, but maybe you got some stuff going on, like someone's sick, you're sick, maybe it's like it's not just like a cold, maybe something medically wrong with you, someone dies, and you just really don't want to talk about it, and just trying your best that it would be normal,
You came to the game night, you want, like you said, wanted to try to be normal, like have some semblance of a social interaction with your friends. So yeah, could be something. You never know.
Yeah,
just try and be as nice as you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Say it, like you said, say it after the game. Like, hey, something I can do for you in the game, or like outside of the game.
Yeah, I try to periodically check in with my group, just because I just want to make sure. I was like, hey, just want to make sure everybody's, I won't necessarily do it always at the table. Sometimes I also got one or two guys. Like, I got one guy who plays. I hadn't had him in a game in a long time, but he's always super quiet. I just can't. Everybody else I can kind of read, but him, he's just kind of like, okay, well then I'll do this. Okay, well I'll do this. Okay, my character does this.
But have they ever had one of those like, okay, well I'm gonna do this, but then this happens and it's epic?
Oh yeah, totally. So we're sitting there one time, we're playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and my buddy Mike, this is the guy I'm talking to, and I've asked him several times, even though I know how he is, and he's a great player, and he always enjoys coming when he can make it. I don't think you've met him, and but I'll ask him. I was like, man, sir, am I doing good? Because you're no, everything's fine, everything's great. I'm like, okay, and I always ask him, like, okay, everything's fine. I'm like, it drives me crazy because everything is okay because he keeps coming back, he keeps playing. Nobody has any problems with him. He's a super great guy, and I'm like, okay, that's just how he is. He's one of those quiet guys. He doesn't like super RP his character, but he's always into play and he's always got ideas and stuff like that. That's just how he is. But one time we were playing, he caught me monologuing. So I was inspired by the song called "Red Right Hand," right? So it's a really cool song. Look it up, listen to it, download it. And anyway, so I got this villain. He's got this red right hand. It's just cool, right? It just sounds so neat, right? And it's something evil with his hand and all that. And that's why he's the guy with the red right hand. And some kind of supernatural villain guy. And so we're playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's this mutant cat that's the head of this mutant ninja bunny clan. Long story. The sensei, the whole leader of the whole 4 clans, adopted him when he was like a little mutant and stuff, little mutant cat and stuff. And he became to inherit all these clans. And of course, then the leader passes by, and then he's got to try to keep all these guys united. There's always that one clan that's always kind of butting heads against them, but that's another story for another day. So, anyways, he's fighting this character with this red right hand. I can't remember the guy's name. Just again, some weird supernatural guy. And they're battling, and he's like down on one knee. He's got a sword. He's looking up at the guy. He's worn out, and I start monologuing, and I love to do the, when I put miniatures out, it looks just like that. If I tell you it looks like that, if I put it out, it looks like that. Someone will say, what about this? 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what it is. And if I do anything, and now sometimes players might say something, well, I'm gonna take the knife off his belt. Well, sometimes I'm like, well, it is the miniature. I gotta make a certain account. Sometimes not everything's there. But if you catch me standing up and I'm walking around and I'm turning, I'm looking, even if I'm sitting in the chair and I'm doing something, that's what my guy's doing, when I'm moting, I'm doing this stuff, moving my arms and stuff, I'm standing up and I get into it. That's what the guy's doing. And so I stand up and I'm doing, this is just a one-on-one game we're playing, which one-on-one games are great. First few minutes are a little wonky, but once you get going, it's awesome. So anyways, sitting there talking, and I'm doing this, monologue. And then he says, stop right there, freeze. I was like, okay. Is he doing exactly what you're doing right now? I look at my right hand, I'm like, yeah. Okay. Called shot, I'm going to cut off his right hand. Go for it. Rolls a 20. Lop that son of a gun off. I don't even roll damage. I'm just, yep, you lopped it off. Good job. Lightning sparks, lightning, he's dead. Yay! That happens to me a lot. My buddy James was the last one. He did it twice to me. I can't remember. What was it? Oh, he did it 3 times. So James is notorious. He's also notorious for this. He was in some cult. I can't remember what game it was. We're doing some kind of cult thing. There's like the cult leader talking. He's doing all this other crap. I think it's like a Cthulhu game or Beyond the Supernatural, Play Removal, something like that. And he goes, pulls out his gun, call shot, head, go. Rolls a 20, drops him. Like, you dead. good job. You know, you roll a 20, I'm gonna give that to you. Then we're playing Rifts, and his bounty hunter guy, really cool guy, Roland. Well, that's the name of the character. James is still playing, and again, I had this psychic cult that was beginning. It was going to be all this big storyline I was going to have, and the cult leader's there with a couple of his flunkies, and James catches them flat-footed kind of while they're out in the middle of the desert camping one night. And he's like, "Man, I'm going to get up and I'm going to shoot them. Man, they're going to know where you're at. That's okay. I got to go for it. Stakes are big. Okay, let's go." Gets up, shoots, rolls a natural 20. It's Rifts. Guy's not in armor. He doesn't have his helmet on. Hits him in the head, vaporizes his head. The other two get on their bikes and go. He's like, "Yep." That's how we do it. And then we're doing a fantasy game. He does the same thing. Of course, these are like level 1 cultists and stuff. And he's like, "Is that the cult leader?" You don't know, but he's making a lot of gestures, and there's a book in front of him. Try to kind of hit his head if I roll a 20. I know it's not Palladium, but man, if you roll, he's dead. You know, he's like, "Sweet." 20! It's notorious for that. So I kind of took that over. I'm sorry, but
that's fine.
My God.
On the opposite end, I love the nat ones that can happen though.
Oh, those are fun.
So from a couple of your one shots, my favorite that have happened, it was one sci-fi one. We escape like these alien things that are trying to take over.
Mm-hmm.
We get on the ship, and the one person who's a pilot, I forget who it was. It was a one shot, but he or she was like in the driver's seat, and like, "Okay, we gotta go. It's this one time. Okay, roll for it." Nat 1. And you described it like she messed up the controls and the whole space station just blew up.
Oh, yes.
We saved
that.
We saved the sector. There was just no survivors.
I forgot about that. That was Cosmic Patrol. That was a fun one. That was really good.
And another one was another one shot. It was one where like everyone had to keep going through characters because you were just killing us. But that was the whole point.
That was Beyond Supernatural, and they'd encourage something called the victim characters, where you just chew through them. It's great.
And my favorite one was the poor girl who wrote. She failed like 2 saving throws in a row. Like I think she failed like the Dex one. She was on the ground, little old granny.
Yep.
With the sewing needle. Oh, here it goes. Oh no!
And I purposely.
And then she fails the strength one, so in the eye.
Yep. So and I gave her a couple chances because I'm like, it's a little old lady. So the little old lady, she goes there. And at some point, she like wants to give everybody cookies and stuff while they're investigating this weird house or something like that. There's so much going on in that. And she's like, "Oh, I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the kitchen to get whatever." And the player's like, "Okay, whatever. We'll just a little old lady." She opens the door so her psycho son can come in wearing a rabbit mask with a chainsaw. And I actually have that miniature. And he comes in, he's like, starts running around trying to saw people up. And then poor Andrea, that was her character. And the little lady's there and goes to attack her with the sewing needle, and they wrestle. Something happens, and she ends up, like you said, on the ground, and they're struggling. And sure enough, she fails that Dex, that parry, whatever. She's trying hard. I give her an extra chance, and it just doesn't work. And oh no, here it goes! And I'm like, she puts the hand, you're dead. New character.
But going backwards to the whole like that's exactly what he's wearing, or like that's what he's doing. So the son with the bunny mask, we managed to kill him, and so I was like, "That's exactly what he's wearing." Yes, I want his mask, his coat, and the chainsaw.
Oh, I remember that.
So I tried to like pretend to be her son, to like and I think it halfway worked. Like she believed it was me, and I was able to get at least one attack on her.
Oh, that was pretty good. That was a whole neat one, but I love that. That was so good. And just death by knitting needle. It was really good. And you could just see her just on the other side. She rolls. She's struggling. I mean, she's struggling as much as her character, you know. And she's rolling. And that last time, and it just happened. She's like, just giving the character. She's going through trying to find somebody else. It was so
But I
fun.
like that. That was a good meat grinder one shot.
It was good. I usually don't do meat grinders because I'm the guy that's always like, oh, it's the same characters like Stargate or Game of Thrones-ish, where someone kind of dies sometimes, you know, or actually all the time, actually Game of Thrones. But, you know, my players live more than they die, but meat grinder stuff is really fun. But I'm not out to kill my players, though, normally. I don't try to go out of my, I don't go out of my way. I don't live or die by the dice because I'm about telling the story and having the adventure. But if players screw up, they're gonna die. But usually in fantasy, kind of like a good comic book, characters usually don't stay dead very long.
There's some people that might have grudges towards like druids or something.
Oh, Glenn.
Sorry,
Glenn.
Not sorry.
I want to bring that up. That's a very good point. So some people shouldn't run games, Glenn, at all, and some people should be discriminatory against druids, Glenn. Just so you know. I don't hold any animosity, Glenn, to any Dungeon Master ever, Glenn, for killing my druid. I hope he doesn't watch this. But so anyways, what happens is we're playing Mines of Phandelver, and Glenn ran it for me with a couple guys, and then he ran it for James and a couple guys. And, it was about the same time frame, but I couldn't play the same game James was. So he did basically the same game twice with different sets of people at about the same time, within the same week. And at level 1, I inadvertently died. It just happened, and it was just a bad night. And James inadvertently died as well, level 1 druid, same thing. And then we're sitting there. Then one night we're actually all able to get together. Our schedule kind of shifted a little bit, and now we're all playing the same game. Me, James, these other guys, Glenn, and we're just talking. And I think I say something about my druid dying, and James is like, "Oh, you too, huh? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, well, he was running Mines of Phandelver for me, and he killed my druid too." Suddenly it became he killed my druid, Glenn. And we started giving him a hard time about killing druids. And, Glenn, what can I make up? Anything but a druid? Is that right? And he's like, every time there's a new game, I always do that. I was like, anything but a druid, right?
But that was also the same game that you were in that I was you invited me into that little inner circle.
Oh, yes.
So Glenn actually almost killed me and another character. It was like a green dragon. I think it was like a young green dragon. We failed our saves, and we took twice our health and damage, and so what the rules say, instant death. And so okay, acid breath, wow, we're melting. And then so I think it was me and Travis and I, we were like, okay, well, let's start making the new characters. And then Glenn was like, oh, I think I messed up, we're gonna rewind that. He was supposed to flown away or something at at a certain threshold of his health, so technically he didn't kill you. Oh, thank God.
Doctor Strange is off screen somewhere going, oh, I'm sorry.
I was prepared to make a new character, but the way he described it, oh, so my character is just melting from acid breath. Great.
See, I did it the opposite way. Poor Mike that I was talking about earlier. We're sitting there, and I'm playing with Risk with a couple other guys and him. And so they go to the Splugor slave ship, and they're trying to free all these people. Well, Mike's in this undersea body armor that he got a few sessions back, so he's pretty good. And of course, the Splugor slave ship, it's super sci-fi kind of stuff, and there's monsters running and stuff, and it's on the surface, and then it submerges, right? So all the players are half the party is actually everybody but Mike. They say, hey, we're gonna rift out of here. We're gonna take these guys. You coming with? He's like, no, I'm just go out this airlock underwater. I'm just gonna go because I got this cool undersea body armor. And everybody's like, oh, cool. They all high five. They did a good job. They're minimum casualties. And they rift out. And Mike goes out the airlock. I'm like, cool. And then I have already gone past the point of no return at this point because we describe everything. So, Mike, you go out. You guys rift out. It goes. Whatever happens. I think the ship blew up or something like that. So I am well ahead. And then suddenly I'm like, and oh God! And everybody stops. Like, what? Hang on. What armor do you have, Mike? And he tells me what the armor is. I look it up. Uh-oh, I made a mistake. What? You're really far underwater. How far? Well, let's just say you're too far. And
Brett, underwater pressure?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like, man, I'm really sorry, but you are really far underwater. And I mean, I guess there's no way for character. No, I'm sorry. And I wasn't I was trying to kill him or anything. I just you're really far. And I mean, I probably should just let it go. But I thought about it, just hit me. And then at just some point, I'm like, oh, you're really far. I was like, oh, that's okay. And then I did something later where they had rescued his body. And then him and another player were going on these quests to try to revive him. Something stupid like that. No. But it was pretty bad. We played quite a bit. And we played a lot of different stuff. But I felt kind of bad, and going back, I'd probably been like, well, maybe I should just let it go. But it was still one of those moments oh, I'm sorry. He's like, okay. So I've had a guy like get crushed at depth, which is kind of interesting though. And it was legit too, because I really figured it wasn't like it was like kind of borderline, like I was trying to figure it out. It was like, no, they were deep underwater, and I knew.
That's an impressive player kill, though.
Oh, it was pretty cool, yeah. It was pretty impressed. So, yeah, he was like, oh, okay. Wow. Because I don't have too many people die. And that definitely was a non-recoverable player. I mean, we tried to kind of do some weird magic thing later on, but it was like two other characters trying to do some weird stuff, underworld stuff. And it was just kind of like, it ended up being kind of hokey. And like we played it for a little while, then our schedules would mesh up, so we just stopped. But no, it was fun. I mean, I kind of remember always have this just little feeling of horror, like, but yeah, not many people die in depth in role-playing games like that. So,
oh well.
But he did. Sorry, Mike. Glad you killed my druid. It's bad. I can't play druids. I just want to play a game where I can get second level with a druid. Then you can kill me. Anyways.
Such a hard goal.
I know. Well, man, I think we pretty much covered everything. I really appreciate you coming out and have an RPG discussion with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great talk.
Cool. You got anything last minute you'd like to say?
Not really. I don't want to steer your line, so by all means.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks again, Calvin, for coming out. I really appreciate it. And I'm Dave Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and we'll see you real soon. Well, ooh, that was fun. I like that.
Nice. I like that.
That's cool. Thank you very much for watching this video about what Game Masters Want, an interview with my good friend Calvin. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hope you enjoy more of this kind of content in the future. Thanks again for watching. I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon.